Hello guys. So in this video we will be seeing all the iterative statements that we have in C programming language. So as the name suggests, iterative statements, so these are the statements that is used to iterate over some set of statements. That is, if you have some repetitive task or repetitive set of statements, then you use this iterative statements basically to iterate over that data or some set of statements. So we have three iterative statements within C. So the first one is while loop, then we have do while loop, we have for loop. So we will understand what are these iterative statements. So the first one is while loop. Okay, so this is the very basic one. So this is known as a pre-tested loop generally. That is, it checks a condition, and if the condition is true, then whatever you say, whatever blocks of code or whatever statements you specify in that is executed again. So until unless the condition is true, it is executed. So if you write a condition which is true for 10 maybe next 10 iteration, so this set of code is going to be iterated 10 times, and based on that you can have some values, updations and all that. So you can work with respect to input and output there also. So this is your simple while loop. Now while loop, there are few rules and regulation, or you can say some properties that we have to follow. So in while loop you should not give any integer value, or you should not give some constant. So basically any constant is considered as true. So if you give a constant like this 1, 2 or 3, it is going to consider true, and it is going to have consider it true for an infinite number of time. And if it is 0, it is considered as false. So it's always suggested to add here conditions rather than adding a constant. If you want an infinite loop, your requirement says that you have to create an infinite loop, then you can go ahead and you can just add while, and you can add any constant, any non-zero constant. So any non-zero constant is considered as true. And also you have to have some set of statements here, okay, or else it might possibly go in an infinite loop with not doing any job or not printing any conditions. So these are example for your while loop. So now let us look at do while loop. So there is a simple drawback, a single drawback in your while loop. That is, only if the condition is true, this set of statement is performed. That is, you have to specify condition, how many times this loop should be executed. But here the question is, if you don't know how many times this statement should be executed, or what are the condition for executing this, you will get to know only once you run that set of statement at least once. So in that case we will be using do while, where at least once your code is executed, your statement, whatever you have given the action inside the while loop will get executed, and then later the condition is checked. So later if the condition is true, then it performs the iteration again, or else it come outside the while loop. So this is a simple example for your infinite while loop, where I've given a simple constant here. I've given one which considers it as an infinite loop. So your while loop is also known as post tested loop. That is, it checks the condition after executing the block at least once. So at least once it is checked, no matter if the condition is true or false. Then we have for loop. So your for loop is exactly like your while loop, okay, where you have to give some expression and you have to say how many times. You have to basically give an iteration, and that many times it is going to iterate. So in for loop the syntax goes this way: you have to give three expression. So your first expression would be initialization. So you're creating some counter variable, we call it basically an index. So you're creating an index or counter variable, you're initializing value. Then expression 2 is condition, where you specify condition, how many times you're iterating, or based on that condition this for loop will be true. And third expression is an updation, where you update your condition, you update your index value, you can say basically. So here's a small example for your for loop, where see here I have created a variable called a, I have initialized it to 0, b as c 12 and c as 23, and checking condition. So my expression 2 would be here checking condition, and third expression is basically updating. So until unless this condition is true, it is going to definitely work. Once this condition is false, it stops this entire iteration and it proceeds with remaining lines of code. So hope you understood what is while loop, do while loop and for loop in C program. So in next video we'll be seeing few programs for these iterative statements.